There's a moment late at night that doesn't get talked about much. The house is quiet, the lights are low, your body is finally still. And that's when the mind decides to speak. Not loudly, not urgently, just steadily enough to keep you awake. It starts replaying small moments, things you said, things you didn't say, choices you made years ago that suddenly feel unfinished. It wanders into tomorrow, then next month, then a future you can't see clearly, but somehow feel responsible for anyway. It's a strange kind of exhaustion. You're not running, you're not doing anything wrong, and yet you feel worn down. Most people call this overthinking, but I think that word misses something important. Overthinking isn't a flaw, it's the mind trying to keep watch, long after the danger has passed. And if you've noticed this happening more as you've gotten older, you're not imagining it. When you've lived a while, your mind has more history to protect, more patterns to scan, more reasons to stay alert. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been paying attention for a long time. There's a particular kind of night that brings this out. You're not anxious exactly, not panicked, just awake. You turn over once, then again. You listen to the quiet of the house, the refrigerator humming, a car passing somewhere far away. Nothing is wrong, and yet the mind starts gathering old threads. A conversation from years ago shows up without asking. A choice you made suddenly wants to be reviewed again, as if something new might be discovered this time. Then the future slips in quietly. Not dramatic fears, just questions without answers. You're tired, but the mind stays alert, as if it believes it's still on duty. That's when you realize this isn't about fixing anything. It's about learning how to rest while the mind is still awake. Over the years, I've noticed a few quiet truths about how the mind works and how it slowly softens when we stop trying to force it into silence. 1. The mind rarely lives where the body is. When the mind won't rest, it's almost never because of what's happening right now. It's because attention has wandered. The body might be washing dishes, driving a familiar road, or lying in bed. But the mind is somewhere else. It's standing in a conversation from 10 years ago. It's rehearsing something that hasn't happened yet. It's trying to fix a moment that's already gone. The body, meanwhile, stays honest. It only exists here. Peace doesn't arrive when you finally solve every thought. It arrives when attention returns to the place life is actually happening. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just this moment. Even a brief return is enough to quiet the noise a little. 2. Fighting reality is what drains us the most. A surprising amount of mental fatigue comes from resistance. We argue with what's happened. We wish people were different. We replay moments hoping they'll end another way. The situation itself may be difficult, but the constant push against it doubles the weight. Acceptance is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean liking what happened. It simply means recognizing what's already here and deciding not to fight the fact of it. When you stop wrestling reality, something inside loosens. Energy that was tied up in resistance becomes available again. Sometimes peace doesn't come from changing anything, only from stopping the argument. 3. The mind was never meant to carry everything at once. The mind becomes heavy when it's overloaded. We ask it to hold the past, predict the future, manage responsibilities, and prevent mistakes, all at the same time. No wonder it feels crowded in there. Life starts to feel overwhelming, not because it is, but because too much of it is being carried mentally instead of lived moment by moment. Clarity often begins with a simple narrowing. What actually needs your attention today? Not everything, just this. When you stop asking the mind to hold the whole world, it begins to rest. 4. Thoughts are experiences, not instructions. One of the most freeing realizations comes quietly. Not every thought needs to be believed. Thoughts appear automatically. They arise from memory, habit, fear, and imagination. But meaning, That's something we add afterward. A worry surfaces, a regret knocks, a doubt speaks confidently. You can notice it without following it. A thought is something you experience, not something you are. And it certainly isn't a command. The moment you stop obeying every thought, space opens. And in that space, the mind softens. I've noticed this most in ordinary moments. Standing in line, sitting in a parked car before going inside, pausing with my hand on a doorknob. A thought appears fully formed, confident, convincing. It tells a story quickly about what something meant, what might happen next, what should have been done differently. For a long time, I followed every one of them, not because they were true, but because they sounded urgent. Eventually, I learned to pause, just long enough to notice the thought without moving toward it. Sometimes I still believe it, sometimes I don't. But the pause itself changes everything. That small space is where the mind stops running the show and starts settling down. 5. The body calms the mind faster than reason ever will. When the mind spirals, we tend to think harder. We analyze. We explain. We search for answers. But calm rarely comes from better logic. It comes from grounding, a slower breath, feet touching the floor, a pause before reacting. The body doesn't live in the past or future. It lives here. When you return to it, even briefly, the mind often follows on its own. You don't need to fix anything. Just come back. 6. Whatever you're carrying is already changing. The mind suffers most when it believes this moment will last forever. But nothing does. Emotions shift. Thoughts move on. Even heavy seasons pass, often more quietly than we expect. You don't have to force yourself out of discomfort. You only have to stop believing it's permanent. Time is already doing its work. Overthinking doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you've lived, you've cared, you've learned. Peace doesn't come from silencing the mind. It comes from understanding it. And when you stop fighting your thoughts, stop carrying everything at once, and stop asking the mind to do what it was never designed to do, it begins to rest, not suddenly, not perfectly, but enough.